What is the real cause of depression? In this video, we're going to put an end to the debate by answering that question in very simple terms. And then once we have that answer will serve as a kind of guiding light all the way to the end, all the way to the dissolution of depression. That's coming up in this video. All right, so what is the real cause of depression? We can really say it quite simply. Depression results when I'm starving for real meaning. That's it. I'm starving for meaning. Doesn't that match well with your experience? Now, I have to add something to this because it's really two things at once and they go together. First, that I'm starving for real meaning. But secondly, I am being subjected to, in one respect, you could say I'm being wounded by a kind of false meaning. So those two things are happening at once. Part of me, human beings are powered by meaning, built to go out and find new meaning. And in the same way, if you were to withhold food from the body, when real, true, you can even use the word eternal. We'll get into what that word means. That has nothing to do with a long, long stretch of time. Eternal meaning. When I don't have any of that to sustain me, to nourish me, depression is the natural outcome. Add to that, if I'm being inundated by a kind of false meaning, it's doubly worse. No real meaning coming in, false meaning anchoring me in place, weighing me down. And probably at this point, we should just use a simple example. What do you mean by false meaning? You know, in our world, we're raised on the idea of the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. You can pursue it. You can chase it. You can track it on a map and hopefully somehow corner it, get your hands around it. But between now and that point, you're just going to have to tolerate your life. Here's an example. Let's take a look at this. Who hasn't lived from some idea of, if I can just start that little business, if I can just accomplish that goal, if I can just secure that person in my life, then I'll be happy. Who hasn't felt this way? Who hasn't pursued that all the way to the very end and counted the days between where they are and this eventual payoff? And just agreed that during the time in between, I just have to tolerate the feeling of emptiness. That's false meaning. And we experience the result of it when we finally get our little cafe or we get our person. We accomplish the goal. And I don't know what happened, but I don't feel any different. It's because we were sold false meaning. Now, I may feel a little bit different for a few hours, a few days. You know, it's interesting. If you listen to professional sports athletes, they have this experience, this recurring experience. You hear it over and over in the interviews. They've just won the big world championship. The elite, the top of the top. And they confess it to us without knowing the significance, really, in what they're confessing. They say, well, you know, I just don't think it's sunk in yet. No, it was empty. The The value that the whole world said you would find when you won this incredible championship, it wasn't in there. It was a false promise. We are not supposed to be pursuing happiness, pursuing meaning one day somewhere out over the horizon. We're supposed to have the experience of moment to moment, ever renewing meaning. When we don't have that, and listen, we're raised in a world where nobody knows of such a thing. And maybe there's a part of you right now, as you listen, which, by the way, this is a healthy part, that is a little bit skeptical. I don't know. Now you're starting to get a little bit out there, at least when I compare it to everything I've seen in the world, everything I've been told virtually. You're saying that there is a happiness that can be here and now, independent of circumstances? That there's a meaning I can have, even in the face of that person who I love dearly, saying that they must go their own way? Yep. Yes, there is. So in this world, even though everybody is doing the very best they can, your parents did the very best they could, the very best they knew to do. But they had been sold this idea of a time to come when they would finally be happy. And without maybe even using it in words, their whole being, everything that they were, taught it to you indirectly. Everything they were was about the vacation that's coming 2 months from now. And so there's really no blame placed on anybody. Everybody has done the best they could, but we just had very few people in our lives, and maybe none that you can even remember, who had this other way of living. And so you could really say that we've been being used for a purpose that we were never intended, meaning to pursue happiness, to pursue these things in the future. We're being used for the wrong purpose. Have you ever seen a horse penned up in a corral? And seen this horse stand with its head hung down low? It wasn't able to fulfill the real purpose of its life. It couldn't get out and run across an open field. And because it couldn't fulfill its purpose in that condition, it felt the effects, just like an individual feel the effects of depression if they don't have real meaning. When this creature is not able, given the room to do what it was intended to do, to fulfill the purpose of its life, if it's not given that space, that room, it becomes defeated. So, in this talk, we are just looking at this one idea. What is the real cause of depression? I don't have this ever-renewing meaning in my life where no matter what happens to me, there's something profound and significant, meaningful. And because that's absent at this time, and because all of this false meaning that I've, without knowing it, just taken on board, that false meaning now weighs upon me, keeps me weighted down, keeps me from being able to be alive, interested, curious, engaged in my own life. Because there are so many things that I'm waiting to finally come to me, or that I've lost and wish I could have back. So in upcoming videos, we're going to look at what is this ever renewing source of meaning? How do I find it? What is it? Where do I look for it? How do I look for it? So we're going to look at that. That's a little bit more downstream in the videos, in the lessons, in the course. We're also going to look at, well, what is this false meaning that's been weighing me down? This is crucial to dissolving depression permanently, is finding out, where is this false meaning coming from? What's it built upon? And how do I eradicate it? How do I step out of the world of that false meaning? And I just want to say, I have to ask you to be patient in these opening lessons. It's just not possible to fit all of these things in at once. It's important to get this one idea first. What is the real cause of depression? Some people go 10, 15, 20 years never really knowing what the real cause of this condition is. And so to finally have this light to shine upon all of these things that we're going to be talking about in these upcoming videos, it's like a compass. It's a lighthouse to have this constant reminder of course, there was no real meaning in my life. There was a kind of false meaning, and that's all I knew to look for. That's important. It's significant to cover that and to make sure we don't rush through that idea onto the next thing. We want this really we want to absorb this. We want it to become part of everything that we are, this understanding. So there's other thing I want to mention in this little talk. Already we have a hint of something quite special. I would use the word, we have a hint of something miraculous already in these first couple of videos. Because if I look at my experience and if I really understand what's being said here, that the reason I feel this depression is because I'm starving for real meaning in my life, that says something about what I am as a human being. That life put inside of each of us something that demands meaning. It's urged to go out and find meaning. And that without it, we're like that horse in that corral, unable to fulfill our purpose. And at the same time, that life has found a way, and I won't even say it has found a way. It was built into this life from the very beginning. Life has put into this entire creation a way to communicate with us. And it communicates with us through the experience of discontent and contentment. Discontentment and contentment. We're going to talk more about this as well in future videos, but just think about that for a second. I feel this unanswerable discontent. I don't know how to address it. I've tried everything. Now, in some cases, I know some people will think, well, actually, it's because I lost a certain condition in my life. But if you look back prior to the thing that you think is responsible for this discontent that you now feel, before having lost that, you'll see a whole string of experiences of, I named for myself what I thought I needed to bring contentment into my life, and I got it, and then discontent came again. And it came again because I wasn't finding the real answer. I wasn't finding the real meaning that supplies contentment. So we now have this hint that we're not alone here. We're not alone in this, that there is something guiding us. And this will become more and more clear, more and more beautiful, and there'll be more and more meaning in your life as a result of it as we go into this. So what do we have coming up next? The next lesson, we're going to look at why depression isn't an enemy to be overthrown, overpowered. We're going to find out what is its real purpose. And then we're going to look at, in the same next lesson coming up, a radical change in your relationship with this depression. And it's a change that will make possible, it'll open the doorway to the eventual dissolution, the ending of this depression. So that's coming up. All right, one last thing. Please remember, this is a complete course. So there are more video lessons before this one, after this one. So make sure, if you're not finding the playlist here, you can always find it over at theinneroasis.com. In fact, I better put that up on the screen. And another thing, I want to invite you to our weekly discussion group. I can't tell you how important, how valuable these weekly discussion groups are. You know, these ideas that you're hearing, I mean, these are things that have tremendous power, and at the same time, it takes some work to try to understand, how do you fit all of this together? And naturally, you'll have questions. And I can't tell you how much can be unlocked by one honest question. So if you have these questions, come to the discussion group, take part in them. You'll be unlocking doors for yourself and for everybody on that call, and for me. I can't tell you the importance of an honest question to unlock the next level for everybody who's involved in that exploration. It's quite beautiful. And then the last thing, be sure that if you found this video helpful, make sure that you like it, make sure that you subscribe. This is how the algorithms find out that, hey, this is a valuable video on this topic. Let's show this to more people. This is how we reach others. So this is how you can help get these things into the hands of others. Like it if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button. Also, for that discussion group that I mentioned, if you have friends who are struggling with a similar condition, whether it's anxiety or heartbreak or full-on depression, invite them into the discussion group. Let them know about these videos. All right, we will see you in the next video.